Hi, this is Dr. Ajero at Stephen F. Austin State University, and this is a video of me demonstrating how to play Amazing Grace on page 290, the harmonization with two-handed accompaniment from Alfred's Group Piano for Adults, Book 2. In order to get full credit for it, you will have to recruit a soloist who can sing or play the melody while you play the piano part. I'm going to be playing it with a virtual recording of myself doing it on the flugelhorn, but when you submit your video or play it live in performance, it'd be nice if you could acknowledge your soloist for their contributions to your performance. After my performance of the whole song, then I will go through every chord so that you can just make sure that you're realizing it in the style that is given there on page 290 and also follows through with that accompaniment style throughout here. Okay, so here it goes. So let's go through each of these different chords here, all right? Because the style is to imitate almost like a guitar picking throughout the whole process. As I mentioned in class, whenever you have a root position triad, like in the very first measure, you should do the voicing of root, fifth, octave, and that gives you the G open fifth in the left hand, but in order to make it a G major chord, you need a third. So as you see in page 290, it has to have a B, a D, and a G. It's actually just a first inversion triad in the right hand, but it's in its close position. But then when I put them all together, then you get that G major chord, and to play it so it sounds smoothly, you hold the pedal down and then you just play it one note at a time like this. Except for the top two notes that you'll play with together at the same time, okay? The good news is the next chord is the G7 chord, and you don't have to change anything in the right hand. Right hand's just the G major chord, but instead of root fifth octave, you're going to play root, fifth, and then the seventh, but is it going to be F sharp or is it going to be F natural? It's F natural because it is a G dominant seventh chord and not a G major seventh chord. So that one should look and sound like this here. Okay, see how I did that? Notice that I used the fingering 5-2-1 in the left hand and 1-2-5 in the right hand for whether you do the root position triad or the root position dominant seventh chord, or any seventh chord for that matter here, okay? The next one is the C major chord, and you just got to make a conscious decision to go down. I know it's farther to go down, but I think it sounds more musically satisfying to play the root fifth octave in the left hand like this. And then let the right hand follow so it doesn't sound too far apart. And there you got your C major chord. So that's how you want to play that next measure with C major. But then it comes back to the G major measure in the next measure. They didn't write it out for you, but you know to just do the exact same thing that you did in the verse measure here, okay? And then the next one that they have is an E minor chord. So which way should we go for that? I think it's closer and more musically satisfying to go down to the E, just down a third, and do root fifth octave, which should look like this. Okay, see how I did that one there? Same fingering, all right? I'm not even using my third fingers or fourth fingers at all for this whole first half here, okay? And then what do we have next here? We have the A7 chord. This is probably the most missed chord in previous performances that I've had here. Since it's a seventh, it's got to be root, fifth, seventh. It's got to be a G natural on top there. But then do I want a C or do I want a C sharp? If you said C sharp, you would be correct, because that makes it the A dominant seven chord. It's a secondary dominant 5 of 5 here in this case. What's it the 5 of? 5 is D, and coincidentally, what's the next measure? D7, so I moved up to that A7, and then I moved down to the D7. So it looks like that there, okay? And then in the break in between, you see the whole rest in measure 8, is that there? Then you just have that single D all by itself, don't play anything, and that gives you a little bit of a break, but then you have to be attentive to the soloist when they say, I once, and you want to come in on their D with the G major chord in the left hand. Okay, so that's measure 9. And then in measure 10, you have the G7/B. So this is the first time that we're deviating from a root 5th octave or a root 5th 7th because of the /B. So then what I suggested in class is to do, just like what we've done in chord progression quizzes, is to do the B in the bass, not F sharp, but F natural, and then G. And you see how it's already a G7 over a B chord there? And I think you're still staying in the spirit, even though it's not doing root 5th 7th or root 5th octave. And you can stay on that G major chord in first inversion like you were doing in the previous measure, like so. You don't have to hold them down like I'm doing here. You can let the pedal do the work for you. I'm just holding them down so you can see which ones that I ultimately play, but then when in the real performance, you may have noticed I went. Okay, so utilize the pedal to your advantage so that it buys you more time to make the changes here, okay? They wrote out what they want you to do in the next measure with the C and the C sharp diminished 7. So start off the C, but don't start it on the low C. Move it up this time around. It's okay because we have this like rising bass from the B natural to the C. And that's how you get the C major chord in the first two beats of that last measure of the second system. And how do we get to the C sharp diminished 7? We play the C sharp in the left hand, G and B flat. I use 2 and 4 personally with that one here. And then I add the E after it, coming back to it there, and you see here on the screen that it's now the C sharp fully diminished 7th chord here, okay? If you just think about it, it's just an E diminished chord in the right hand and a C sharp in the bass, like so there, okay? So that measure should look and sound like this. And notice how you have to change the pedal since it's 2 harmonies. And that's how you do it there, okay? And now we're on the last line. We have a G over D. Since I just played a C sharp here, it's best to go up a half step to the D and play it in second inversion like this. D, G, B. Okay? It's not the root 5th octave like we did before, but it still stays in the guitar spirit there. And I'm going to do the exact same thing in the right hand, but my fingering this time, since it's a second inversion, is going to be 1, 3, and 5. I think that's going to fit your hand much easier and will be a lot more reliable to play along with there, okay? So that's how I do the G/D is this. But I wouldn't keep going up to the E there because now you're starting to invade into treble clef territory. It's the start of a new phrase, so then now is a good opportunity to move down. I know it's farther, but play E minor 7th. We did E minor before. It looked like this, but that's not what you want to play here with the E minor 7. You want to add a little bit of 7th color to it there. So I'm going to change this E to a D, and there I go. And there's my E minor 7th chord. Okay, and then what's the next chord? A7. So then what I do for the A7, I just do that root 5th 7 as like I did before. A, E, G, and then I add the C sharp. And it's already an A7 chord even without anything there. But then they want a D7 on beat 3. Don't have enough time to break it up. So we play it with this little bunch here in the right hand. C, D, and don't forget that top note is F sharp. You need that leading tone, F sharp. All Fs are made sharp there. But they don't want to /C. So what do you got to play in the left hand? You got to play a D. And there you get the D7 chord. Now, we would expect that to resolve to the G major chord, but since it's a nice little church song, then we like our plagal cadences, and that's what we got here is a C/G. So what I do for that is I do a G in the left hand. See how it's already a C major/G chord in the left hand? And I don't move my right hand here because I was already in this area. I've already got the C, so I'm just going to change this D and F sharp to E and G like this. See how I did that there? It's a little bit wider apart than you've done the whole song, but it's okay in this particular case here because then it sets you up to play that last chord, the G major chord, in first inversion in the right hand, but then when you add the G in the bass, then it doesn't matter, it still fulfills the G major chord. And you also have the tonic on top there, which makes it sound a little bit more musically satisfying here, okay? So I hope that video was helpful for you. You could always go back and rewind and see if anything I went a little bit too fast. And if you have any questions, you can email me at harrowmp@sfasu. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and do all that fun stuff that you do on social media. And I look forward to hearing your performances. Have fun practicing. Bye.